town's tenants, and an amendment that provides young people opportunities in the form of apprenticeships. But firstly, Madam Chairman, I want to thank, as indeed the members opposite have done, the officers that have been involved in helping us put together this budget. I may not always have agreed with the advice that they have given us. I may not always have agreed with some of the stances that they have taken, but there is no doubt, as I said at Cabinet last week, that they do work hard for this town and they do deserve recognition. So my thanks go to Simon Freeman and his finance team for all of their work that they have helped provide us, and indeed the administration's budget, during this trying time. As I said at Cabinet, we have a very good officer corps now, and we should respect that and we should praise them at every moment. Yeah. Sadly, it's not all good news. Councillor Durkin said that the budget is positive. One thing that's not positive is something that's not been able to be included in our amendment tonight, and that is a cut in members' allowances. We suggested to officers that a 3% cut be made in members' allowances budget, and we suggested that it should be taken from those members like myself who receive an extra special responsibility allowance. This would have raised £5,300, enough to go 25% of the way towards achieving a council tax freeze, or enough to give a young person from Harlow College a better start in life by replacing the apprenticeship post in communications that the Labour Party have cut. Sadly, officers ruled this out of order, wrongly so, I believe. Full council should be the ultimate body responsible for what goes on in this town, not a members' remuneration panel of unelected people. It is up to the remuneration panel to decide how our allowances are spent, not how much allowances we receive. And I think officers were wrong to rule that amendment out of order. However, dealing with the amendments that we do have on the table tonight. First of all, the tenants. The Labour administration want to use the housing revenue account tonight. That's monies meant exclusively for use on tenants in order to send a glossy propaganda sheet to every household in the town. Now, despite the fact that over 70% of the town are not council tenants. Now, there's nothing wrong with glossy propaganda sheets per se, Madam Chairman. Every councillor likes to get their name and picture out to the electorate. But when you can't afford it, or it's a choice between propaganda sheets and tax hikes, scrapping a magazine that no more than often than not gets dumped in the recycling, or freezing council tax, I know which one I'm voting for. And if the choice is to scrap the propaganda sheet or load all of the cost onto tenants, then Harlow Conservatives are on the side of the tenants. Moving on to our growth items. Council priorities say that Harlow Council supports apprenticeships, something I wholeheartedly agree with. However, like any Labour council tonight, we've seen them say one thing and do another. They're scrapping the post of an apprentice in communications. That's the chance for a Harlow College student perhaps to get a better start in life. They don't really want to support apprenticeships. Well, I do. That's why I suggested replacing this item in our budget, and indeed from the housing revenue account creating 2 new apprenticeship posts. That's 3 apprenticeships for the council. And finally, the council tax freeze. The government has said that if councils restrict their rises to no more than 1%, then they will make up the difference with a cash grant and allow residents to have a council tax freeze. The amount that needs to be saved to access this grant, it's not a lot, it's about £20,000. We've suggested tonight just a few small ways that that gap to freezing council tax can be achieved. Letting out an empty building that we charge business rates on allows a charity a cheap base and saves us the cost of those business rates. Adjusting car parking charges at Wych Elm, which is used mainly, as we know, by hospital visitors, but still keeping it cheaper than the hospital car park, raises some £12,500. Not topping up the plentiful energy reserve that my administration helpfully created, just for this year brings in £5,000. As you can see, Madam Chairman, accessing the government's cash and freezing council tax for our hard-pressed residents should be pretty simple. Now, in previous years, the Labour Party have argued that these grants from the government shouldn't be accepted as they would leave a gap in funding for future years. That argument, Madam Chairman, has now been done away with. There's a letter that went to Chief Executives from the Deputy Director of Council Tax Local Government Finance on the 15th of January. It states that in 2014-15 the freeze grant should be built into the spending review baseline and that grants for earlier years are now to be included in the local government settlement, indicating that central government funding will continue for these grants for the foreseeable future. So not accepting the government's cash isn't about future years' funding. And it's not about finding the money to get down to 1%, because as we've proven in our budget amendment, that's possible too. So it just leaves ideology, Madam Chairman. Ideologically, this Labour Council doesn't want to accept a helping hand from a Conservative-led government.